Hi there, and welcome to Elevate Women's Health Center. Today, we are going to talk about moving by design or move by design. If you are a patient at Elevate Women's Health Center, this is one of the sort of basic building blocks of the information that we want to give you when you start care. Craig and I, our goal is always to make sure that you guys have as much information that you can use when you're outside the office for building your health as possible and understanding the concepts of being in a life by design office, which is the model of chiropractic care that we use. We try to teach you what it means to eat by design, to think by design, to have power by design, which is your chiropractic adjustments, and of course, move by design. So this is for you. If you are not a patient of Elevate Women's Health Center, then welcome. And I hope that you can take a few nuggets of information from this webinar, and you are welcome to ask questions. You can contact us through my website, elevatewomenshealthcenter.ca. So let's get started. We are talking about move by design. So the question asked first is, why is it important to even learn about this? Why would we be learning about this in a chiropractic office? And the reason is because health, as you know, it's a multi-factor approach to how you live your life. And movement is just one of those things. But what's really interesting for us in this day and age is that despite having more and more access to information than we've ever had in the history of humanity, we are still becoming sicker and more infirm. And it's this kind of ironic situation that the more information we have, yet the sicker we're becoming. So it's really important that we learn about how movement can affect our health. There's this great quote from an article in the Journal of Applied Physiology that says there is overwhelming evidence that illness and disease are from living incongruently with our genetic requirements for life. And so, one of the things that we need to look at is what is in our environment that actually alters our genetic expression. See, a lot of you think that your health is genetic, right? My parents have heart disease, so that's why I'm on blood pressure medication. Or my mom died of cancer, her dad died of cancer. It's probably that's what's going to take me out. And I get that, but I think it's really important that each and every one of you understand that genetics actually plays a very, very tiny role in the actual expression of health. And what you choose to do in your life is way, way more important. It matters the lifestyle choices that you make. And they estimate it's anywhere up to 98% of the choices you make are going to determine the health that you have. So if you love the health that you have, awesome, keep making those choices. But if you don't, then start by making some different choices. But let's look at what is there in our lifestyle that affects, that creates stress in our bodies or around us. And I do want to say that we talk about stress, and stress is typically thought of as something very bad. But stress is actually, it's an important part of growing. And I don't just mean emotionally. If you go to the gym, for example, and you're lifting weights, what you're doing is you are stressing your muscle fibers in order to trigger growth hormone to help create more muscle. When you do weight bearing exercise, for example, it triggers your osteoblasts, which are bone cells, to actually create more bone. So we need to be able to have stress in our life in order to create an adaptive process, whether that's physical, whether that's emotional, whether that's spiritual. Stress is actually a good thing. The problem is when our life has way more stress than what our body can adapt to, or the amount of stress that we have is incongruent with what our bodies and our spirits, our minds are able to adapt to. So if you look at this slide, you can see lots of different things here. We've got physical stressors. I'm sure most of you have been in some kind of a fender bender, or some of you have been in some fairly major car accidents. Physical trauma is a huge stress on the body. Having a major fall, getting a concussion, playing sports, all those kinds of things. Look at those two pictures, the gentleman at the top who's working away at his laptop. I'm sure a lot of you can really relate to that right now. Look at the picture. This is actually my son, Cole. He's learning online right now, but look at the posture that he has. And this is a child who has been taught proper posture and movement. But when you just think of device use and how this is affecting our children, it is a big, big deal. If you look at the picture of the big traffic on the highway down there, lots and lots of chemical stress. So breathing in lots of things. We've got all sorts of household cleaners, especially right now, if you're using a lot of disinfectant in your home. I mean, that's just one example of the chemical stresses that affect our body, what we put on our skin, the things that we wash our clothes with. It's all around us and it has a major impact on our health. And then, of course, there's emotional stress. And I don't need to go into that. Money, relationships, raising kids. I mean, if you have a spouse, and especially if you have kids and you have a job, right away, I already can imagine how much emotional stress is playing into your health. So the thing is, just because something is genetic doesn't mean that it becomes how you are going to be in your health. Here's a great picture of a set of twins. These are identical twins, but look how different they look because one has clearly made different choices in her life than the other one. I love this picture of this sunflower. Here is a living thing that is living at its fullest potential. The environment this flower is living in is providing all the genetic requirements that this flower needs. And if I were to ask you what those are, you would probably tell me, well, it needs sunlight and it needs water and it needs good food and good soil around it. Maybe it got fertilized somehow. And those are all things that a flower needs. And that's pretty much all it needs to be healthy. If you look at this flower, this is in real contrast to the one I just showed you. But if you had this flower inside your house, you would automatically know what to do. You would probably check to see whether it's been watered enough. You might check the soil. You might move it from an area of darkness into a window and see whether or not you can regenerate it. But you know the things that this flower needs in order to try and get its health back. And yet it's interesting if you know you look at our kids here, you can't see this child very well because of the window where my face is in here, but we don't seem to know, or I think we know the things that create health in us and in our kids, and yet we are often just unwilling to do those things that will create health. And I always say to my patients, look, if you just do the right thing and then give it time, you will get extraordinary results. The average person in my office is in her mid 40s, a woman, typically has a life partner of some kind and kids. And often they are in pain. They've had many years of pain that in the beginning, they thought it would just go away. But then after a while, they ignored it because quite frankly, they didn't have the time, right? Like when you were involved in getting your job off the ground or getting your career off the ground, starting a life, husband, kids, all those things, who has time for self-care? But the reality is if you're coming to the office with a health challenge that's been there for years or decades, you have to think about it in terms of if you were showing up in your 40s with teeth problems to an orthodontist, he's not going to put braces on your teeth and then just say, okay, come back next week, we'll take it off. It takes years to kind of unravel the things that got you there and begin to build the good things in. But you have the rest of your life to do this. If you just do the right thing, you make it a habit, and then you give it enough time, you will have extraordinary results. So what do our genes expect? This is a really important question to ask yourself, not just in the realm of movement, but in the realm of health and just general living, because the reality is you are composed of DNA. That's what started you. Your genes are your building blocks. And if you don't know what your genetics expect of you in order to be healthy, how are you ever going to be healthy? So in a Life by Design office, as I said before, we look at 4 sort of core problems that people can come in with. How do they eat? How do they move? How do they think? And what's the power connection between the brain and the body like? So power, we deal with that on the adjustment table. We're making sure that we are connecting your brain and your body as well as we possibly can so that your body can function at its fullest. The other things, how you eat, how you move, how you think, those are all things that you do outside of the office. And to be honest, they have way more impact as a whole than anything else you can possibly do. And today we're talking about the movement piece. So it's really interesting, when you talk about movement, most of us think of exercise. And this picture to me shows this is sort of the conventional thought of what exercise is. But it's really funny, If you look at other cultures around the world, if you look at cultures in like in tribal Africa, for example, or in other tribal places around the world, they don't think in terms of, well, I have to go out and exercise today. Is it a legs day or is it a core day? Should I do yoga? I've actually exercised 3 days in a row, so now today is a rest day. It's this very odd thing that we have come up with in industrialized society where we're so busy living our life that we don't have time to move. And so we have to do these weird things on weird machines in weird places that we think, well, that's movement. And so the two key questions that you really need to ask yourself are what does our body require of us metabolically and in terms of movement in order to maximize health? And what are the best strategies in order to fill those requirements? So in the office, I am often talking with people in terms of requirements and strategies, right? If you want to have a great relationship, what does a good relationship require? And what are the strategies to get to that? For nutrition, what does your body require in terms of fueling? And what are the best strategies to get there? And it's the same with movement. So think about these four things. We've sort of boiled down Move by Design into four main concepts. The first one is just be mobile. The second is lift heavy. The third is move fast. And the fourth is move slow. And now we're going to go through each of those and I'm going to break it down for you. So the first one, be mobile. Honestly, being mobile should be the easiest thing for us. But what I find is that what I'm usually dealing with, especially with adults, is we're looking in terms of regaining what has been lost. Look at these two little guys. I love this picture. Look how deep their squat is. Could you do a squat that deep right now? I know most of you would say, oh my gosh, I do not have a hope in heaven of being able to move my knees, hips, and ankles like that. But the thing is, you were designed for this, right? If you look at kids, they are moving all the time. If you look at a newborn baby lying on the floor, they're always doing this. They're flailing. Why? Because movement creates neural connection. That's what connects all the different cells in your brain and therefore your body. Human beings are designed for movement. But the problem is, once kids get to, well, first of all, when they're 3 or 4 years old, we put them in school and now we tell them you have to sit all day. It's no wonder that we have such trouble trying to get kids to sit still because they're not designed for it. And you weren't either. And then I find once they hit about 10 to 12 years of age, that desire at recess, for example, to just go out and play manhunt or capture the flag or hopscotch or skip rope, all those different things that kids normally do, it starts to go by the wayside. And that's when you see them standing in pods in a group and then eventually sitting. And then they go to high school and they don't really even have recess. And all they do is just kind of go to the cafeteria, stuff their face full of fries during their lunch hour, and then go back to class and sit for the rest of the day. So this idea of we have to plan movement, we have to make time for movement, we have to figure out how to incorporate movement into our lives is very, very, it's cultural, but it is counter to what human movement is. And if you look at lots of different cultures around the world, movement is just, it's a part of their life. They don't even think twice about it. Look at these older people in, I'm assuming it's India, like look at how they're able to squat. And this is not an anomaly. This is very normal. They live a very long life, these people, and movement comes easy to them. See, the problem with us and movement, we lose the ability to move over time, not because we got old. We attribute it to aging, but it's not. It's not because we aged, it's because we stopped moving when we were like 10 or 12 years old. You know the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. It goes without saying for movement. If you don't move, you will slowly over time, little by little, week by week, month by month, year after year, you will slowly lose more and more of your ability to move. That's why just being mobile, just moving around as much as you can all day, every day, it helps to deal with that joint achiness and stiffness and the lack of ability to move. So one of my goals for you guys is to help teach you to just be moving as much as possible. So what are some things that we do to be mobile? First is joint to joint movement. So, you know, when you get up in the morning and you kind of roll out of bed and everything feels a bit creaky and you just, some of you will do some stretches. Most of you just kind of do your best to get to the bathroom to brush your teeth or go down and have your coffee or whatever the case is. So joint to joint movement is really, it's a routine that you can do And I've included a link to a video that I shot, and it's up on YouTube. I'm going to include the link, but I'm not going to actually play. It's about an 8-minute video, and I don't want to keep you sitting for any longer than you have to. But joint to joint movement is a routine that you can do every day that takes you from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, and it moves literally every single joint in your body in about the time that it takes to perk your cup of coffee. And so what I try to train my patients to do is have this video bookmarked, and just while you're steeping your tea in the morning, or while you're making your coffee or getting your water or whatever, play this video and just do it along with me. It's 8 minutes and a couple of seconds. Everybody has time for that. And I promise you, your body will feel so much more ready to start the day when you do that. Foam rolling. Foam rollers are those great big, thick, dense. They're about 3 feet long and maybe 12 inches in diameter. Maybe not, no, 6 inches in diameter, but they're dense foam. They kind of look like a great big pool noodle, but they're much denser. Foam rolling is awesome. I really recommend everybody has a foam roller in their house, and just foam rolling your spine from top to bottom feels awesome. And it actually does get those individual spinal joints moving. Spinal movement. So one of the things that I do when you come in for chiropractic care is I assess every single joint in your spine and pelvis and see what moves well, what's not moving enough, what can we leave alone. So spinal movement is critical for brain development and for brain, how do I say it, for basically keeping as many brain cells as you possibly can. Have you ever seen those they're like a crank flashlight. You crank it, and as you're cranking it, that gives power to the flashlight. I feel like spinal movement is like a crank flashlight for your brain. It's the engine that starts your brain. And you'll find when you go out for a walk, for example, do you ever get these awesome downloads, or these awesome, I'm sorry, I don't mean downloads like downloading something into your phone. I mean like insights. You get these aha moments. Well, it's because you're moving, and movement stimulates thought. It helps you keep as many brain cells as you have, and you need that. And then, of course, the importance of upper cervical function. Upper cervical means this part of your spine, so the neck. That part of your spine has 50 times more input right back up into the brain than anywhere else in your spine. So if you have never had the upper part of your spine assessed by a chiropractor, I can't stress how critical this is for you, because it's probably one of the first areas that will get stuck. I have adjusted newborn babies that are minutes old, and just from the process of being birthed already, they have an upper cervical subluxation, an area of their spine that has stopped moving. And as that baby grows, if it's not corrected, that stuckness is going to stay there, and it will eventually change the physiology of the body. It will change how the body functions. And so if somebody was going to tell me, you can only adjust one part of the spine for the rest of your career, every time I would choose the first 2 to 3 segments of the neck, because that's where I know I can have the greatest impact on somebody's health. One of the things that we look at in our office is the concept of anterior spinal distortion. So I do a very complex posture analysis on every new patient coming in. Why? Because if your spine is starting to move forward, if your head is starting to move forward like this, it has a massive impact on your health. And the great thing, the really cool thing, is that just about every area of healthcare that there is right now is doing research on the effect of posture on the cervical spine, and on that C-shaped curve, that when you look at the spine from the side, the neck should have this beautiful C-shaped curve. And when you start to lose that curve because the head goes forward, everybody is looking at how does this affect health. And it's really cool to see so much emphasis on that now. Why? Because it matters. So again, if you have not had a chiropractic assessment, this is one of the first things that you should do. So here are 3 easy strategies that everyone and anyone can implement into their lives to create movement. First is joint to joint mobility exercise. You're going to get the link in this presentation. You can ask me for the link anytime if you don't get it from this presentation somehow. But just doing that joint to joint mobility exercise in the morning while you're brewing your tea or brewing your coffee is awesome. Do some foam rolling. and do some safe squatting. So I showed you pictures of people squatting for a reason. It is a very basic human movement that we need to be able to do. As you become an adult, it's really important that you learn how to squat safely. And that would be the topic for a different video, but the ability to squat is also really important. And just from a movement standpoint, it moves so many different things in your body. It uses so many different muscles. So that would be the third real key component to creating a movement routine. So if you click on this link right here, it takes you to a YouTube video where I show the morning joint to joint mobility routine. Okay, second component of Move by Design is lift heavy. And I already know what you're thinking. There's no way I'm lifting weights, or I haven't lifted weights in years, or I'm too old to lift weights. It's such again, kind of a strange concept that we have here, that you have to be young to be, a lifty, a weight head or whatever. It's silly because it's all relative. It's obvious that my 78-year-old mother is not going to lift the same way my 21-year-old son is going to lift, but she still lifts. Why? Because it's important, and it's part of the reason she's got to 78 and is so ridiculously healthy. So here are the concepts to think of when we talk about lifting heavy. First of all, we're talking about a short duration. This is not something you have to do. You don't have to spend 2 hours, doing chest presses at a gym. You simply need to have something in your hands or on your body that creates more gravity on your body than what you have without it. 10 to 30 minutes is lots. High intensity exercises produce superior results. So the more intense you can make this, and let me tell you, if you squat with a 5-pound weight and you do enough squats, your heart will be pumping. You don't need machines. If you have machines, awesome, you can use them. I really like functional movements, which are, you hear that term a lot. All it means is movements that probably use your own body weight or your own body movements to just add more muscle or build more muscle strength in your body. And they mimic movements that we see in sports and life. So you'll often, you may hear terms when you're talking about functional movements, especially if you've heard of CrossFit, for example, things like shoulder thrusters or deadlifts or bicep curls, those kinds of things. They're great exercises to do because they mimic the things that we do in life. So for example, if I'm lifting, or if I do bicep curls in my home gym, right, just even with a set of 2, 3, 5-pound weights, what I'm doing is I'm strengthening my arms, but I'm doing it in a way that mimics what I do in my house. So if I lift a hamper of laundry, I am using my biceps. If I'm doing shoulder thrusters, for example, well, that would mimic, for example, if I'm throwing my kids in the pool. Okay, my kids are too big for me to throw in the pool, but my husband still does, for example. So doing shoulder thrusters mimics those kinds of movements, putting something heavy up on a shelf overhead. If I have to bend down and lift a heavy box, if my husband is bending down to lift a big gas can to put more gas in our boat, that's like a deadlift. So if you do these things or those kinds of movements in your movement routine, you're so much less likely to injure yourself when you do these things in the regular course of your day. Heavy is a relative term. You don't have to lift like what this guy is lifting. Good form is the key. So just lift a little bit, but make sure your technique is right on point. That's the biggest thing. And then as your technique is perfected, you can start to lift heavier if you feel like you need it. Why lift heavy? Well, there's lots of great reasons, and this is all documented in exercise physiological research. And I'll tell you, they are the ones who do probably the most research on exercise physiology because they're the ones who are dealing with bodybuilders, professional athletes, that kind of thing. So here's what we know. When you lift heavy, you develop and maintain lean muscle mass. Okay, here's the thing. We are told that as we age, we lose muscle mass, and we think that it's because we age. But there are studies where they look back at athletes who were athletic in their 20s and they maintained their athletic routines all into the later parts of their life. They have the same muscle mass. So you don't lose muscle mass because you got old, you lose muscle mass because you stopped using it. And that's what we typically do as we age. So start building again and you will build muscle mass. It increases your metabolism. Hey, if you're looking to lose weight, especially, you need a higher metabolism. Maintain low levels of body fat. Muscle burns fat. So the more muscle you have, the less likely you're going to become obese. Increases bone density. Women, this is so important for us. As we age, we naturally begin to, I don't want to say lose estrogen, but our hormone profile shifts, right? As we head into perimenopause and menopause, we don't need to have kids anymore, so we don't need the same amount of estrogen. And so when we begin to when our estrogen levels begin to decline, it really changes our body chemistry. It changes so many different processes. That's why so many women, that's not the only reason, but that is a part of the reason why so many women as they age are much more likely to get osteoporosis. So listen, keep working out. You are going to be able to maintain your bone density so much easier. It prevents injuries, like what I just told you. You know, if you're bending down all the time to lift laundry hampers, you shouldn't put your back out doing that. But if your back isn't, it doesn't have the endurance anymore, doesn't have the strength to do simple things, of course you're going to be more prone to injury. It helps to balance hormone levels. It helps to balance blood glucose levels. Hey, type 2 diabetes, adult onset diabetes, is a pandemic right now. And it's but inactivity is a big part of it. So if you get moving, it will definitely help to balance out those blood glucose levels better. And most importantly, it's because this is how we are designed. Like I said, you were designed for movement. You are not designed to sit at a desk all day or sit and watch TV all day. You are designed to move. Let's move on to the third component, which is moving fast. So again, when I see a picture like this, I think I'm probably like most people. I go, ugh, I hate running. I don't actually hate running, but running is something that doesn't come naturally to me. It's something I've had to learn to do. You don't have to do it. For me, there is some enjoyment in it, and so that's why I've learned to do it. But I think most people, when they think about, doing cardio, it sucks. Nobody likes to do it. Well, some people do, but they're weird. So it doesn't have to be like this. We don't have to do hill training to move fast. And I try to always tell people, be creative in how you do it. It should be something that's enjoyable. Excuse me. So if you love to run, awesome, keep running. If you like to skip, learn to skip rope. There's lots of really cool tricks you can do. If you like to kayak, paddleboard, line dance, play with your kids, dance by yourself, turn on some awesome music and just dance for 15 minutes. That can be great cardio. But the reality is, cardio helps to build your heart muscle. It helps to keep your heart and lungs healthy. And you need those in order to live, like not just to exist, but to live. It shocks me that cardiovascular disease is still the number one killer in North America. And it is 100% your lifestyle choices that will determine your cardiovascular health. We make crummy choices. We choose to do things the easy way and then we pay for it most of our adulthood. And there's no excuse for it. I'm sorry to tell you that, but you have to take care of your heart and lungs, and cardio is part of it. You don't have to do it a lot, but you do need to do it consistently. So try and find something that you like. Mix it up. Like, it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time. In the summer, when we're at the cottage, we do tons of swimming, water skiing, running, mountain biking. We do lots of cool things that we just can't do in the wintertime. So in the winter, we downhill ski, we cross country ski, we get out and we just, hike. And with all that clothing and equipment on, if you keep up enough of a good pace, you can really get your heart rate up. But you can find different things in different seasons. Do things socially, make it a social event, have a buddy who keeps you accountable for some of these things. But try and find something that you enjoy because you're much more likely to follow through. And the last one, this is my favorite, is move slow. I like moving slow because moving slow is really it's just movement. It's puttering around the kitchen. It's shopping in a mall or shopping anywhere. It's walking back and forth to work. It's taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It's just movement. So anyone can move slowly, and moving slowly should be a big part of every single day. So, how does it work? How do you begin to build a schedule of movement? Because here's the thing, if this is not something that is a big part of your day, you need to begin to build it into your day. And the easiest way to do that is to start scheduling it. So, what does that look like? How do you know how much of each different component to do? Well, the first one, be mobile every day. Getting out of bed, creating that joint to joint mobility routine, and maybe some foam rolling. I think doing it in the morning is best, but when people ask me, well, what's the best time of day to do it? I always say the time of day that you actually do it is the best time to do it. Just doing it is the important thing. Don't overanalyze what the best time of day is. But if you ask me what makes the most sense, I would say when you first get out of bed, because that's when most of us feel the most creaky. Um, so make sure you do that every single day. How often should you lift heavy? 2 to 4 times a week. It can be more than that if you're young. I mean, if you're a late teenager, like I would say 18 to 25, you can lift heavy probably almost as much as you want to and just listen to your body. As you age, you can imagine that your body needs more and more recovery time. So that's where 4 times in your 20s might be 3 times in your 30s, might be twice in your 40s and 50s, for example, and beyond. Your cells just need a lot more time to regenerate, and that is the reality of aging. Move fast, 1 to 2 times a week. You don't have to go overboard with this. Just do something that gets your heart rate up at least once or twice a week for, I would say if you can do it for 15 to 20 minutes, or you can do it in spurts, right? You can do it for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, and 10 minutes in the evening. That counts. So moving fast is something you don't have to do a lot of, but you have to do it consistently. And then move slow. So for example, going for a long walk, taking your dog for a walk. Really, I put 3 to 5 plus hours per week. This is something you should do as many times during the day as you possibly can, and you should do it every day. There should never be a day where you don't at least go for a walk. So move slow. Like the slower the mobility exercise, the more often you should do it. People often ask me, okay, what's your schedule? So I'm just sharing my schedule right now. And again, my schedule changes depending on what my kids are up to, what season of the year it's in. But right now, this is kind of my schedule, and this is what's working for me at this time of year. I have a big turtleneck on, so it's winter as I'm recording this. On Mondays, so every day I've got Be Mobile. Let's just skip past that. Mondays are my move fast days. So because I don't start work until the afternoon, that's going to be the most likely day for me to go for a run or a cross country ski. And I usually lift heavy on Mondays as well because I typically will take Saturday and Sunday off of doing, pretty heavy lifting or a lot of exercise. I'm usually pretty tired by then and I need some recovery time. So because I'm coming off of that, that's a day where I can do move fast and lift heavy on the same day. Tuesdays, mobile and move slow. Tuesdays, I work in the morning and I just find that it's a good day for me. If I can just do those two things, it's good. Now, right now, I have karate classes 2 or 3 times a week. So Tuesday evenings, I'm usually in a karate class and I'm not really sure how to classify that. It's a combination of moving slow, moving fast, and lifting heavy. Wednesdays, again, mobility and heavy lifting. Thursdays, mobility and moving fast. So Thursdays, I don't see patients. Again, it's a great day for me to book a run in or a cross country ski or something like that. Fridays, they're a little up in the air. I see patients in the morning and then I have the rest of the day off, but I often am trying to get errands and things done so that I don't have to do them on the weekends when my kids are home from school. So definitely mobility, always move slow. And then sometimes I would say lift heavy, especially if I can get a workout in with my husband, Craig. Saturdays, mobility. That's a day where we often will go for a long walk in the forest with the dog, but it's also a day where we often will have a CrossFit style family workout. So I would put, lift heavy is often in there as well. Sundays, I like Sundays to have a completely different pace. I want Sundays to feel different for me for many reasons. So that's typically a day where, it's a move slow day. It's a walk. It's something that is much more reflective than other days. So that's my schedule. And I think I've covered just about every different kind in probably the frequencies that I recommended to you in there. More implementation tips. So here's the biggest thing. Don't try and do too much. Some people get all sorts of ideas and try to incorporate them all at the same time. And then it works for a couple of days or maybe a day or a little while. And then it's hard. And then it just goes by the wayside. This is a process. Try and remember you are in a marathon, not a sprint. You have the rest of your life to implement these things. This doesn't have to all happen this week. So just pick one thing and then make it a habit. And when you've got that habit solid, then you choose something else. Focus on consistency, safety, and fun. Consistency, it has to be a routine. That's why I say when I talk about the word habit, I think that things should be automatic. You just roll out of bed, you put your workout clothes on, and you do your mobility routine and your workout, or whatever the case is, right? So be consistent, be safe. If you injure yourself and then you can't do anything for a couple of months, that's no help to anybody. And I think it should be fun. I'm at a stage in my life where working out should not be hard. It should not be something I have to talk myself into. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. There's so many other things out there that I enjoy. I'll just find something that is fun. Goal setting, community, and accountability. So set a goal. If you, for example, if one of your goals this year is to lose 10 pounds, that's not, it's kind of a goal, but it's not really a goal. Goal setting should involve a habit that creates a result. So in your goal setting, if losing 10 pounds is one of your goals, then I would recommend work out 4 times a week. That should be the habit that helps to get you to the goal. So think, when you're thinking of goal setting, think of what is a good goal. Maybe it's just, I want to start doing that joint to joint mobility routine 5 mornings a week, Monday to Friday, while I'm brewing my coffee. That's a great goal. Community. So get some accountability, get some other people into it. So if you have a partner in your house, get them doing the joint to joint mobility with you, if that's what will be make it more likely that you do it. Accountability. Get somebody who is a coach who will hold you accountable to your goals. Excuse me. I walk every Wednesday. It's a long, long walk. It's about an hour walk. I walk every Wednesday with a friend of mine. We keep each other accountable. It's really darn cold out there today. So first thing I did was I texted her and I said, we are walking today. I don't care how cold it is. Let's bundle up. We're going to go. So as soon as I finish recording this, I'm putting my snow pants on and my hat and my mitts and everything else, and we're walking. Excuse me. Schedule it. Man, if you don't schedule it, something will eat up that time. If you don't block it out in your calendar, something else will come in and gobble up the time that you could be taking for it. So one of the easiest things is to not schedule it, because then if you don't do it, you don't feel as guilty about it. If you don't schedule it, it's not going to get done, full stop. And make it easy to win, hard to lose. Try to do whatever you can so that you don't have to think about it too much. So, if you don't love the thought of working out, and when you get up in the morning and then you have to go to the closet and figure out, well, where are my shorts and where's my tank top and my sports bra, and I've got to pull this out of the laundry hamper or whatever. Set it all out the night before, so you literally have to roll out of bed, go to the bathroom, put your clothes on, and go do it. Try not to think about it. Do whatever it takes to make it easy to win. I know one of the barriers I found for a while to doing my morning workout, because I was working out for a time really early in the morning. Well, if my husband was sleeping, I didn't want to wake him up by digging through my drawers to find my workout gear. So then what I did was I started putting a set of workout gear downstairs in the gym. So if he was asleep, I could go down in my PJs and just change down there. So again, it's easy to use things as an excuse. Try and get rid of as many excuses as you can so that it's easy to win. No one is coming to save you. This is your life. This is your body. This is your health. And this life of yours is 100% your responsibility. We have to get rid of as many excuses as we possibly can as to why we're not healthy, and just start doing what it takes to be healthy, so that someday you can dance at your great grandchildren's weddings. You can hold your great grandkids and not feel like, I'm just going to watch them play because I don't have the energy or the ability to get down and throw a softball to them. I want you to live, like truly live on this earth for as long as God has put you here. And then when it's your time to go, you've lived a great life. It's like, go. It's not years and years of decline. To me, that is the worst waste. So I want you to take responsibility for movement today. Go back and look at some of the slides in this presentation and figure out, okay, how can I make this more possible for myself? How do I schedule it in? Where do I want it to fit in my days? How do I want to move slow, move fast, lift heavy, be mobile? Where do I want to fit them in the nooks and crannies of my life? And if you have any questions at all, then please just ask me. I love talking about this stuff. I love helping people figure it out in their life. And if you are not a patient and you have never had a chiropractic checkup, you've never had your spine and nerve system checkup, then please get in touch with a chiropractor. If you're local to Port Perry, you can schedule a complimentary consultation and talk about some of these things with me anytime. I would love to help. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Like I said, if you have any questions, just message me, call the office, email me, whatever you need to do, and let's get it worked out. Have an amazing day. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.